My husband cheated on me with a girl he met at work, but he was planning to break it off with her and come home to me. Instead, I divorced him and served him in front of all his coworkers. Posted by you/Akeka65. I'm sorry, this is really long. Backstory: I, 59F, was married to my now ex, 57M, we'll call him Ed, for 10 years, together for 13, but originally met him 40 years ago as teenagers. He was in my circle of friends, but we never dated. We used to live in Florida, but when I was 19, I moved back to Michigan, where I am originally from. 27 years later, I went back to the city in Florida where I used to live to visit friends. I ran into Ed while on vacation, and we began talking on the phone daily. 3 months later, he left Florida and moved in with me. 3 years later, we were married. Not my first, but his first. We had our ups and downs, but mainly, we got along fine and didn't argue much. However, he would throw tantrums if things didn't go his way and would punish me by sleeping on the edge of the bed, which was fine with me, or by not talking to me and slamming things. 2 years into our marriage, things went horribly wrong when he got into illicit substances. It was terrible. One night, I finally had enough and was on the phone with my mother-in-law, telling her I was sending him back to Florida, when the sheriff's department knocked on my door. Someone had found my husband unconscious, severely beaten, in a ditch a block from our house. We lived in a small village with woods across the street. I raced to the hospital and didn't recognize him when I saw him. He was so swollen and bruised. Now, my husband was a man who could fight, and he was strong. Come to find out, it took 3 men to do this. They thought they could rob him since it was payday, but he had been home and had purposely left his wallet at home. I sat with him 24/7 while he was in neuro/trauma ICU. I slept on a couch in his room, prayed over him, bathed him, and took care of him even after he came home. This actually saved his life. He got clean and went back to work full-time, always putting me and my grandson first before his own needs. He went to work and came home, that was it. 4 years later, I finished my education and became an ordained priest. I have been the pastor at my church ever since. At first, he didn't mind, but then he would say things like, "I didn't sign up for this," even though I never pushed church on him. I knew he believed in God and prayed daily. I would invite him to Christmas and Easter services, and he also came when I was ordained and when my grandson, who calls him Grandpa, was baptized. For several years, things were really good. Then, suddenly, he began coming home from work, showering, changing clothes, and leaving. At first, he said it was to watch whatever sports were playing on TV because we didn't have live TV. Then he told me he'd be back whenever he got back. After a while, things went back to how they were. We laughed a lot, joked around, and I began getting the usual kiss goodbye before he left for work. One night, he had done his laundry like he always did, and I talked to him while he was folding it. He never wanted me to do his laundry, so that wasn't new. We ended the night laughing as he tried on old clothes. The next morning, I woke up and went out to the living room to ask what time he had to be at work, but he was gone. I assumed he had to be there early. I walked back into the bedroom and saw his keys on the bed, which made me wonder why he would walk to work on such a cold day. It was December 1st. I started leaving the bedroom again and noticed his laundry basket was missing. I went to the laundry room, and it wasn't there. I went back into the bedroom and saw that his closet was empty. I called him to see where he was and asked if he had moved out, and of course, his answer was yes. Come to find out, he had met a woman at his job who worked for one of those shopping apps where people buy and deliver groceries. He worked for a large grocery store chain. He had moved in with her. Over the next 6 months, he called almost daily and would say things like, "Our marriage will survive this, just give me time." He even told me he would be mad if I started dating. During one of our phone calls, he told me he wasn't happy with her and was going down to Florida to visit family. He said he wanted to come back to me when he returned to Michigan. The plan was this: he would pack things he couldn't live without but leave some things at his new girlfriend's house to make her think he was coming back to her. He planned on giving his 2-week notice while in Florida and looking for another job when he returned. By this time, I knew I didn't want him back. I found my self-worth again and had made new friends with neighbors once he was gone. Come to find out, nobody liked him. Even the women at the gas station across the street told me how he flirted with them when he came in. Even an elder at my church found out he was cheating but didn't tell me because she didn't want to hurt me. So, I went to the courthouse, got a divorce package, and filled out all the paperwork. Where I live, I was able to serve him myself. I decided that since he chose to end our marriage while working at the store, I would officially end it there. The day before he was supposed to fly to Florida, I made sure I looked really good, new hairstyle, makeup, and a gorgeous outfit. I went to his job, found him, and handed him the divorce papers. I told him he was wrong. Our marriage wasn't surviving this. You should have seen his face. He was actually upset, with tears in his eyes, and for a moment, I felt bad. Then I reminded myself of what he had done to me. He didn't just leave me in the middle of the night, he also stopped talking to and spending time with my grandson, who thought Grandpa was the greatest. He left me in a house I couldn't afford without him, and I would have been homeless if my church hadn't paid for an apartment. He told me women were stupid. He actually thought he could come home as if nothing had happened. That was one thing he said to me on the phone because I never brought up the past. Last week, 6 months after our divorce was final, my car was repossessed. When we were together, he got 2 loans, and I agreed to use my SUV as collateral because I never pictured my life without him. He stopped paying on his loans, so they took my car. I wasn't notified because they sent him the letters. They wanted me to pay off his loans to get it back. I burst out laughing and said that would never happen. So, my question is, was I the jerk for serving him the way I did? Relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk for serving him. My only question is, why did it take you so long? Ops response. I felt broken at first. Then my niece passed away. Then my own health fell apart, and I was in the hospital for 31 days, so I had to build my strength back up. Also, I didn't want to tell my congregation that I was getting a divorce, but mainly, it was my health. Commenter 2. Truly, there's not enough bad stuff that can happen to this human vermin. Did he violate any court orders when he defaulted on the 2 loans and caused the repossession? By the way, your grandson is best served by having no contact with this Jekyll/Hyde persona. Ops response. Unfortunately, no, he didn't. I had forgotten about the loans when I filed for divorce. We always had separate accounts. What made me mad was when I called our credit union about my car being gone, and they got rude and told me they had sent a letter to my church. They didn't know I am the pastor. I said, I am the pastor, and all of the mail gets put on my desk. There was never a letter. That was last Monday. Then, on Wednesday, a letter from the credit union came stating my car was going to be taken. They mailed it to me the same day I called, 2 days after the car was taken. I'm not inconvenienced without a car. My daughter and grandson moved in with me, and we share her car now. Commenter 3. You and your ex were both required to disclose all assets and liabilities. Your ex's non-disclosure could possibly be addressed with a post-divorce motion. Ops response. We didn't have any real assets, so we did a DIY divorce, and I had forgotten about his loans. My friend, who is a judge, said that whatever he left behind when he left, he forfeited. I did give him things after he left that I knew he had forgotten to take. I packed them and set them on the porch. Update 10 days later. Thank you for the comments and support. Here's a reminder of what happened. My now ex-husband got a loan while we were married and used my car as collateral. A year later, he left me for someone he met at work. He kept telling me that our marriage would survive, just give him time. He ended up not being happy with her and planned to come back to me after visiting his family out of state. His plan was to leave without telling his girlfriend, only packing what he couldn't live without. He intended to return home to me when he came back. The day before he left to visit his family, I served him with divorce papers. 2 weeks ago, my car was repossessed, and the bank wanted me to pay off my car, $3,000, along with his 2 loans that he had stopped paying on, $5,700. I was willing to pay off my car but told them I would never pay for his loans, and they refused. Here's what happened since my post. I found out where my car was being held, 2 cities away. When I visited their website, I discovered that it was also the location where they sell repossessed cars in an online auction. They hold it every Monday for 24 hours. I called and asked if I could retrieve my belongings, and they said yes. When I arrived, they had my things in a bag, including my license plate. I registered online, and this past Monday, I began bidding on my car. I ended up buying it for $2,700. When I showed up to get my car, the staff laughed and said I wasn't the first person to do this. I put my plate back on and drove home. Now, I know the bank can still come after me for the balance, but I honestly don't care if it hits my credit report. I don't use credit cards, and in October, my daughter closed on a brand new house. I have no other bills except for my cell phone and utilities. I'm now living with her and my grandson. I was lucky enough to have enough time in to retire when my muscular dystrophy began causing more health issues, and that money goes to my other bank. My mother-in-law was happy to give me my ex's new address so I can sue him for my half of our income tax return that he kept last year. She's even having us, me, my daughter, and my grandson, stay with her when we visit Florida during my grandson's spring break. She's still calling Ed's girlfriend Teresa, Trina, Tracy, everything except her actual name, which does start with the letter T. I love this woman.